What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV. Manchester City 3, Tottenham 3. And you know what? We came to the Etihad, we played our football, and we came away with something. A depleted squad, no centre-backs in the starting lineup. Emerson Royale and Ben Davies at centre-back. Bissouma back in the side, who I thought had a pretty poor game, to be honest. But how much credit do you give Spurs for keep coming back time and time again?
It's exactly what we were asking for in that second half. Like when we're talking about half time, if we can hold this ball for or at least have a decent 5-10 minutes in that second half, we can get something out of this game. And again, it was another mistake from ourselves, but ultimately, I think the result is fair if you were to kind of like balance the whole thing up. There's something inside me that feels very annoyed that we didn't go and grab a winner, but before this game and in general against City, I'd take this result any time. That was exactly what I said before this game. If I didn't see effort and passion, it's a problem. But there was effort throughout that entire game. Yes, okay, the first half wasn't amazing, but that second half was more of probably what Ange was after, despite the fact that our team is quite depleted in very key areas. So very proud. I'm very proud of that performance today.
Yeah, I'm proud as well. And I think the team were very brave for the most part today. Keep persisting, keep trying to play that we want to play, keep trying to go forward. I think it was impressive for the most part of the kind of mentality that the team showed. But let's take it all the way back to the start of the game, right? Because it seems like a lifetime ago now, that start of the game. Spurs go 1-0 up in the first 10 minutes. Yeah. And Spurs started this game really well. And I thought for the first 10 minutes, Spurs were the better side, creating the chances, got the goal. Sonny scores with a lovely breakaway. I think it was the ball over the top from Porro. Son does really well to get in behind, I can't remember who it was, but then Ederson should really be saving that. But look, you still got to give credit to Sonny for putting that in the back of the net. 2 minutes later, Sonny's putting it in the back of his own net from that set piece. And then from that point on, up until the end of the first half, what happened to Spurs? Because we just couldn't seem to get out. Was it just Man City showing their dominance? Like, why couldn't Spurs get out pretty much their own half of the majority of that first half after we scored?
I think it's a bit of both. I think just psychologically, the fact that we had gone that 1-0 up, we deserved that scoreline at that moment in time. But as soon as they got that goal, even though the fact that we kind of scored it for them, just gives them that snippet of, I wouldn't say belief, like they didn't need belief because it's so early in the game anyway, but it's almost like, okay, level slate here, now we can actually take control because actually Spurs may be coming here to get something out of this game, whereas maybe in the back of their minds they thought it was going to be a walkover, like many fans did, including myself to an extent. And they just ultimately got that. And in reverse of that, the Spurs players were perhaps in a reverse psychology of thinking, we kind of messed that opportunity up there a bit. And then that's when the nerves kick in, and that's where I felt like we were making all those weird mistakes, like just passing it to them or kicking it out for no reason and stuff. It was just kind of really annoying and frustrating to see that. But at the end of the day, it's all about spells within the game as well, isn't it? And it got towards the end of that half, and I felt a bit more relaxed. Like, yes, the mistakes were there, but I felt like, because it was 2-1, because it could easily have been 4-1, mate. Like, it was 2-1, and that's where I felt we can get something out of this game. And that's where we got to in that half, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, and a few of the players that I had a bit of an issue with in the first half, I thought Bissouma, for the whole game, to be honest, just couldn't seem to kind of grab his chance once again. He's not showing those levels that he did show in maybe before that red card against Luton. I think it was a bit more of the same, and a bit sloppy moments on the ball, especially that chant when he gave away that third goal when we thought we had lost the game. I mean, that was a horrible mistake from Bissouma. All he had to do was do a square pass out to Destiny Udogie, and he checks back and he loses the ball, and then Man City break and score that third goal. But in terms of the first half is what I'm talking about. Emerson Royale, you had a bit of hot and cold from him. We were talking about it, didn't we? We said, you said he was the most improved player in that second half. And in the first half, he was just doing some strange, terrible things. Some of that passing in that first half, I thought was really poor. But then again, he was showing us some real good defensive capabilities in that first half as well.
Yeah, exactly. He's just one of those 50-50 players. Like, you just don't know. You're either going to get one or the other in a whole game, or you're going to get one or the other throughout a game. And we got the latter in this one. It's just, I just want to see some of these players that have been around for some time. Like, it's not like they're new or anything. They're getting used to the Premier League or anything. They just don't have something within them to have that full consistency and be switched on throughout the 90 minutes, like just weird, bizarre, dodgy decisions, and ultimately one of those, kind of lead to mistakes that cost goals going against you. So that's why I get infuriated about it the most. If you're 3 or 4-0 up, it's not as bad, but you're in a situation like this, you need everyone like on it constantly. So that was the most frustrating thing. But exactly as you said, like it was almost chalk and cheese. It was a completely different player in the second half. He dealt with everything. I don't think he put a foot wrong. So you have to appreciate when things are going well for some of these players, and that's what he had in that second half. It's just I wish he would do that throughout the whole game, because actually you might have a different story throughout a game anyway if those mistakes didn't happen.
Talk to me about Brian Hill. Got taken off at half time. I felt, showed his weak nature at times in terms of his physicality coming up against Kyle Walker. I felt in the first 10 minutes, he was showing some good ball retention, some nice little turns. But after the first 10 minutes, I felt like he just couldn't get into the game.
I think there's 2 elements to him. There's the physicality and his confidence thing. There's no doubt in our minds that he has talent, and some of his footwork is absolutely incredible, and it led to the first goal. Let's be open about that. Like if it wasn't for his absolutely fantastic pivot, I think he then got it out to Kulu, and then the goal occurred through Son. But that's what you want to see, and then you're like, oh, hang on a minute, he's turned up. He's learned a bit of a lesson from the last game. He's getting some game time. And at the end of the day, let's also be honest that he hasn't had a massive amount of games since he's been at Spurs. So there is an argument to still say that he's got to have a consistency of games in front of him to know that actually that's not your last chance and you will get another one. You need to improve though. But there comes a time as a Premier League player, and no disrespect to him at all, because I'm sure he's trying, he needs to eat more or something. Like I was similar, when I was a young age, I was like very skinny, and I still relatively am, but like the fact is at that level you have to have some physicality on it, and if he doesn't get that, that's where the confidence will keep dropping down. I don't think there's anything wrong with his ability, it's just that physicality aspect, and that's what will drag him down. And that's why we probably see him have really good stints, and then it gets to the point where it's like, oh, I don't know what to do, I'm going to pass it backwards, or he just loses it, or clashes into a player, or blows in the wind, because that's just how it is for him at the moment. It's a real shame. I just hope he keeps getting the chances, because there is a player there. But there's a tough opposition today. But you need the players. We can't carry players anymore. You have to step up, however that might be for him. It's a bit of a shame, but we kind of knew that he was probably going to have to come off at some point. And Højbjerg came on, and it was perhaps a really good decision ultimately, because the game, I felt, calmed down for us and it became a bit more controlled.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I said that at half time, I think Højbjerg is going to come on and give us that element of control in the middle of the park. And I think that's exactly what he did. But in a strange way, it was a bit similar to the first half, that second half, where we showed that fight and that kind of grit and that showing that we were going to do something in the first 10 minutes of the first half, where in the second half it was actually a flip reversal. Man City started the second half really well, and we were all sitting here being, we're going again. Man City were on top of us for so long in that first half, and then we thought, all right, it's business as usual in the start of the second half. But then I felt Spurs really grew into that game after that opening 10-minute spell in that second half. I thought we dominated the possession from then on. I mean, I want to just find out that stat, because the possession in that second half, I thought Spurs must have been well on top.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I
54% in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, that first 10 minutes that is flashed up on the screen, we were 71% up. Obviously, that was going to balance out eventually, like you just said, throughout that whole second half. But it's absolutely fantastic credit that obviously something was said at half time to drill in a bit more confidence, to drill in a bit more stability in those players. And I know people have some thoughts against Højbjerg, even I do. He has quite a few flaws in his performances sometimes, but he does bring some form of calmness and a bit of maturity there, and his passion and his energy does kick in. And I think that did reel off to some of the other players. And that was evident throughout the whole thing. There was way more less mistakes than there were in the first half. And there was a bit more stability with how we were moving forward, and just being a bit more controlled in our method of passing it around the possession. Yeah, okay, we lost it on occasions, but the second half felt like we could actually go on and win that game. because not just because of that, but it was definitely had a big part to play in it for sure.
And you could see Spurs were growing and growing and growing in that second half, and we got exactly what we deserved. A brilliant goal from Giovanni Lo Celso, 2 goals in his last 2 games since coming back into the team after all those many years. What a finish that was from Gio. But then he goes off about 10 minutes later. Do you think that was the right call? It was a bit of a strange one, bringing on Skip for Lo Celso.
I see why he perhaps wanted to do that, to try and control the game even more, and felt like maybe we just want to hold on for this draw because City have that capability of like coming at you. And lo and behold, you bring on a defensive holding midfielder, and we then go and concede very shortly afterwards. It's kind of a bit of a crazy one in that sense, because for me, I was like, I felt that momentum there was in our favour.
Yeah.
Lo Celso,
100%.
with the way that he was playing in the last couple of games and the way that we know he can play, it felt like we had that momentum to potentially go on and win. That's why I said at the end, I wasn't joking, that I felt disappointed that we didn't go on and win that game. We had the opportunity. As soon as Lo Celso came off, in my mind, mentally, the opposition tells the opposition that, oh, they think that we're going to come for them, and that's what they're going to start doing, and that's what happened.
And he had that chance, didn't he? Just
I know,
before he
and
got
it was
taken off
just
with that
such a bizarre substitution. I'm not going to question Ange at all because we got a result at the end of the day, but it could have been slightly different. It could have gone really south, but it was a bit of a strange time. I thought he would at least wait another 5-10 minutes to understand a bit more dictation of where the game was really, really going. Are we actually pushing forward, or is City going to start coming back into this and then make the decision? But at the end of the day, we have that result, but it could have been a bit of a strange one at the end, and I'm a bit questionable about the management decision there.
But at that point in the game, when after Lo Celso scored, when Skip came on, that Man City actually did come back into it in that time.
Exactly.
And maybe it was because we did have more defensive players, and they did get their goal by our own wrongdoing with Bissouma just completely. He was so stupid, Bissouma. But what is it with Bissouma, man? What is it with Bissouma? Because we haven't seen that level of performance from him since the first 10 games, since he got that red card, since he was walking on that tightrope with those yellow cards. He's come back from his suspension now. Everyone said now, without all these things on his mind, playing on his mind, if he gets another yellow card, he's going to be suspended. We're going to see the real Bissouma today. But we didn't, did we?
No. I think there's 2 big elements to him. There's a confidence aspect and there's a pride aspect. I have no doubt in my mind that even that red card from Luton, he probably has a pride element in him to say that he's perhaps let the team down in some way, and that's probably played on his mind a bit. But as in general, with all those cards that he accumulated and stuff, or with that red card, that has got a bit to play for it. But I think some players, and I'm not saying that he won't get over this, but some players play really well in teams when they're playing well, but when it comes to the matter of being really under pressure, or something where we really need to switch a result around because the last few haven't been great, some players just don't attend to that in their minds. And I thought from the minute one, there was a really small area in the second half where he really came into fruition, but that whole game was really disappointing from him, and we really, in my honest opinion, relied on him from that minute one to be that player that controlled everything, and it just didn't happen. And ultimately, that goal came from his mistake. He did the initial bit, I think, correctly, but then just got into a panic, whether that's because there wasn't anyone to pass to, or the fact of the matter is he had 2 or 3 players surround him very, very quickly, in all honesty, but it was the fact that he put himself in that position.
Yeah, but he had the opportunity to pass sideways to the left back to Destiny Udogie, right? But he chooses to turn around and run into trouble.
Exactly.
And when you've just scored the equaliser, when you're away to Man City, just keep it simple, keep it safe. Why? I don't understand.
He's thinking too much. That's what I mean. It's like this, the mentality of what's happened before it. And yes, I generally thought he would have all those cards off his shoulders and be the player that he was. But clearly, there's something in his mind still at the moment. And hopefully that eradicates it. When he came off, you could see it in his face. He was massively disappointed with himself, and he knew. And that's the ultimate thing that you want to see. Not a player just coming off and going, oh, thank God for that. He was just like, actually thinking that was not good enough for me as well. And I'm sure Ange will put it to him as well in that dressing room after the game. And we hopefully see a different Bissouma in the next one, the one that we like and know. But it's just one of those things. It's just disappointing that in such a high pressure game, the player that we should have happened to rely on in that position just wasn't there today in his mind.
But You know, we thought we had lost the game at that point. 3-2 down. What was it, on the 81st minute? And you're like, after all that hard work in the second half, is it all going to go down to waste? Then we get that opportunity. Brennan Johnson goes breaking down on the left-hand side. Lovely cross. We thought it was for Richarlison, but it goes over Richarlison's head. Dejan Kulusevski bodies Nathan Ake, and with an amazing header into the far corner. And Spurs get that point. And how much credit do you give the manager, the players, everyone involved in the result today, to go to Man City when nobody gave us a chance in hell, to take a point from there? And not only to take a point, but to come back from behind twice in the game as well.
Yeah. It's the character, isn't it? I think that's the character that he's building in the team. And some of these fringe players haven't had many opportunities at all this season. And in the last couple of games, again, back to my point, is effort, energy and passion. And it doesn't mean that you're the best, you're one of the better players in that instance. It's just the fact that you can provide some form of effort to the team. And it's that character, the character and the effort. That's what gave us that result today. The fact that these fringe players know that they're perhaps not good enough when these new, the players come back from injuries and suspensions, etc. But they know that in this moment they have to put something in here, and it was shown today that they all fought for their shirt, their badge, and a bit about themselves as well. At the end of the day, they have a bit of pride about themselves to say, actually, I'm going to do what I can for myself as well. And that shone through, I think. As I said, some of those players had a poor first half, came out in that second half were way better than they were in that first half, and gave a bit of a statement that they could probably grow from that now. This is a great statement that we've gone to Man City and got a point. I still think we could have got something out of that somehow, even more than that 1 point. But to take that into the West Ham game, and ultimately a big game in Newcastle next weekend as well, I think this is quite a big statement in their minds.
Yeah, I completely agree, and especially on the back of 3 defeats as well. The crazy injury crisis that we've come through. Next game now, Coutinho Romero will be back, so starting to get a bit of normality back in that defence with Romero coming back. But look, I'll take that 100%. A point at the Etihad, coming back from behind twice with no recognised centre-backs on the pitch as well. I think that is a performance, especially in the second half, and a result definitely to be proud of. So I want to thank you all for joining us today. The Fan Show will be back with you very, very soon. Well, your chance to have your say. The link will be in the community section. But big up to Si for coming in today. I've very much enjoyed doing my first watch along with you today.
Respect.
We'll speak to you all very soon.
Great
Like,
game.
subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.
Come on you Spurs.